Good morning, BookTube. I thought I'd make a video this morning. It's not so much book related, but I have been getting a lot of comments because I'm always talking about Rudy, our last dog. And I have mentioned in these videos how Rudy died in July. He got cancer. He was 13 years old. And I've mentioned how we miss Rudy, and we've talked about, my wife and I, about getting another dog, but then all the work involved, and but I really haven't told you about Rudy, what kind of dog he was. Here's a picture of Rudy that we have here in our dining room. Rudy was a terrier mix. You can look at that. He was supposed to be a really small dog, but he had really long legs. He had no body fur. He just had fur around his head. But when he got older, he had no fur on his body, his back, little on his legs and on his face, but rest of his body, it was hairless. And so he had really long legs and no hair on his body, but he was a sweet dog. But Rudy he had certain kind of I don't know what you call them. Well, okay, Rudy was a house dog. He didn't like being outside at all. He would go outside, well, when he was growing up, when he was a puppy, he was always peeing and pooping in the house, and finally we got him house trained. But he didn't like being outside, so he would run outside, he'd do his thing, and he'd run back in the house. One thing else about Rudy, when he was a puppy, we had him in the backyard, and my wife and my son were doing yard work, and our son disturbed a big underground bumblebee nest. And Rudy was out there as a puppy, and the bees came out of the ground, and Rudy got stung severely. And he became traumatized after that, which means if he heard any kind of buzzing sound, he would immediately go hide underneath a bed, or he would just go and hide. So he was afraid of flies. If a fly got in the house and Rudy would hear that buzzing sound, he would immediately go hide underneath a bed. Also, he couldn't walk him in any areas where there were any insects, any kind of buzzing sound, because he was always low to the ground. So you only could walk him in areas that had pavement and no, especially as he got older. He didn't like being out, like you couldn't walk him in the woods. You couldn't walk him on dirt trails, especially as he got older. He didn't like anything flying around his face, any bugs, anything. So we could only walk him in certain areas, and they had to be sidewalk or pavement. One thing else about Rudy is that if you walked him, you always had him on a leash. Because if he saw any dog, he would immediately go berserk. Now, he wasn't ferocious. He would not attack a dog. He wasn't mean. He would just go berserk. So my wife was the one who mainly walked him around the neighborhood. And she was always embarrassed because immediately Rudy would see a dog, he would pull on his chain and he would just go in this frenzy of barking and yapping, and no matter where you're at. If we walked him downtown Holland, if we walked him around the neighborhood, he would just go absolutely berserk. Now, it wasn't that he was mean. That's what he would do. One thing else about Rudy, when you walked Rudy, if he saw anything on the ground, anything, he would eat it. Rubber, dead birds, dog shit, sticks, anything. And so what would happen, and if you walked him at night, you might not see what he was eating. So often during the night, we would hear him throwing up something he had eaten on his walk. Or he would have diarrhea, and he would poop all over the carpet. He would either vomit or he would shit everywhere. So we eventually always had like a dog carrier crate in the kitchen, and we would lock him in there when he was really young. But as he got older, he would always scratch and bark and didn't like to be in there. So then we would put across the kitchen this kind of like a trestle to keep him in there at night. But he would always break out, and we'd find him sleeping on the couch or sleeping in a chair. So eventually we gave in and we let him sleep on the couch. Well, everything in the house began to smell like Rudy. He had oily skin because he didn't have any fur. And so everything smelled like Rudy after a while, the smell of an old dog. And then if you have a dog, if Rudy had allergies. So his eyes were always caked up with gook. So you always had to clean his eyes all the time. And then you have to be groomed. And every time you take Rudy to get groomed, which is about every 4 or 5 months, that was $45 to get him groomed. Also, we gave Rudy the best dog food, which was around $40 for 2 or 3 pounds. So that was expensive. And then you have Rudy's checkup, his health checkup, his rabies, so that was always $100 to $200 a pop. You had to give him these pills so he wouldn't, fleas or ticks or anything. And then if we went somewhere, like for a week, we had to find somebody to take care of Rudy. And luckily, my wife had a nurse friend who had small dogs, and she would take care of Rudy. So Rudy was a lot of work. You always had to walk him. You didn't know what he would eat on his walk, if he was going to throw up or have diarrhea. And he was always barking, and he was always... But as he got older, like I said, right towards the end, we noticed that he was always choking. He was always coughing, and he had cancer in his thyroids, and that's what killed him. So Rudy was a lot of work. He was a good dog. He liked sitting in my wife's lap when she was home from work, and she'd always take him for walks, but you only had to go to certain places. And of course, she always got embarrassed because if she was out walking and he saw another dog, he would just go absolutely berserk. So that was Rudy. That was little Rudy. Before we had Rudy, we had another dog named Macintosh, who was a good dog. But like I said, when he was around 13, going on 14 years old, he became senile. And he started pooping in the house. He would stop eating. If you put him outside, he'd wander. And he was just, mentally, he was gone. So we just put him down. So that's what I'm saying. If you get another dog, if we got another dog, you have veterinarian bill. You know, you have to get licensed. Every year you have to renew his license. It's illegal if we were to walk Rudy in a public place, if somebody would stop us and he didn't have a license, well, you could get fined. So you have to pay dog license, rabies shots. You have to have him groomed. You have to buy special food that would not affect his skin. You have to walk him, give him baths, groom. And just because the dog, any pet should be treated with that's a responsibility. You know, there's a lot of enjoyment in having a dog or a cat, but they have health problems. They get sick. They need to be fed. They need to be groomed. They need to be loved, and they have their own little quirks. So Rudy was a piece of work, and even though he was a good dog, at times he was a pain in the ass. Because like sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and he would come in our bedroom and he would shit everywhere. Because he wanted to go outside, but he didn't bark, he didn't scratch at the door. He couldn't hold it anymore and he would just shit somewhere. So how would you like waking up in the middle of the night and stepping into a pile of shit or vomit? And yeah, so sometimes he would eat something and he would just, like if you walked him downtown, he would eat things that would cause him to go kind of nuts. I think people would drop downtown. There's a lot of elderly people who live in this called Warm Friends. It's a huge building, and I think they would drop some of their medications, and Rudy would find them, and he would have these episodes of being psychotic. He would run into a closet and try to hide in the corner somewhere in the closet. That would happen a couple of times, like he was on some kind of drug. And yeah, just going on and on. So, having a dog is, they are enjoyable, they are friends, but Rudy, at times I just thought, man, it was a lot nice when I do miss him, but at least I don't wake up in the middle of the night stepping into a pile of shit or dog vomit. And the house still smells like Rudy. We have to get the carpet cleaned, and so yeah, that's Rudy. I just thought I should talk about Rudy. Like I said, today is the new day. It's October the 19th, 2017. It's 8:51 in the morning. I'm kind of out of it. I don't know what I'm going to do today. There's no more thrift stores to go to. No more grocery shopping. I don't have to volunteer at the Book Nook. I thought about going for a walk out in the woods somewhere. There's a lot of country parks around here. I could take my camera, take some photos. I did that yesterday morning. I went out to the lake and I got out to look at St. John of the Cross, but I'm kind of feeling kind of uck this morning. Wrote a little bit in my paper diary. I'm on page 945. So yeah, this is the day. Next Thursday, my wife will be home, but when she gets home next week, she immediately goes back to work. And she comes in next Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening, and then the next day she goes back to work. And so yeah, existence will keep flowing by. So I just thought I'd talk about Rudy Vincent. He was a good dog, but he was a pain in the ass at times. So I'm hoping you're having a good day. And if you got a dog or a cat, it's a great thing. But Rudy was a piece of work. So I'll see you later. Until next time, bye.